Welcome to Binge Watchers, where we talk about the stories and characters we love and the shows they live in. My name is Ron, and let's talk about the Snowpiercer TV show, because why not? I don't know if bad is the right word. It's not bad. It has some talented actors in it, some nice sets, and if it had any other setting, then it would have been just one of those shows that are fine. But they did choose to make it Snowpiercer and to try and capitalize on this beautiful movie that at least, everyone that I know who watched it loved it. So I watched 4 episodes of the show. I did not watch the whole thing. I feel like I gave it a shot, but for now, I'm gonna do a big fat nope on it. A while ago, I started making one of my vloggy type videos, and I made a quick prediction about Snowpiercer before I ever watched it, and I said,
because my prediction for Snowpiercer the show is that it's not gonna be bad, is that it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be okay, but mostly when you compare it to the movie, it's just going to be worse. I don't see a situation where this new Snowpiercer TV show improves upon the concept of the movie. Maybe they won't follow the same plot exactly, and maybe they'll take some of those characters and they'll flesh them out deeper, and they'll make them more interesting and give them additional motivations and introduce new characters. Could very well be. But I don't think they will. I really hope that I'm wrong and it turns out, a masterpiece. I'm definitely going to watch it, but I'm going into it very skeptical.
And I was right. This show, unfortunately, is like Snowpiercer, but worse. Everything is worse. Every aspect of the movie that they try to take on or explore or do differently, they just do it worse. Take another smaller kind of artsy movie that I really liked that also got the TV show treatment, Hannah. Fantastic movie, I love it, and I love the TV show as well. They took the same core story, but they explored the characters in deep and meaningful ways, and they fleshed out the world more. They took full advantage of the fact that they had more time to retell the story. And it's not exactly the same. Obviously, they made a bunch of changes and all of them make sense, and it's a really good show. So it can be done, is my point. In Snowpiercer, they decided to tell a completely different story and even have a different version of the train, which I think is perfectly fine, but they did the most generic story possible at this point: a detective solving a murder. If you're not familiar with the Snowpiercer premise, it's that in an attempt to fight global warming, we released some sort of chemical into the atmosphere that was supposed to bring the temperature down, but it actually brought them way down. And it froze over the earth and made the world unsustainable for life. Mr. Wilford, a billionaire genius, built a train called Snowpiercer that will go around the continental US and act as its own ecosystem, generating power, food is grown inside, and so on. Most people who had a ticket to get on Snowpiercer were the super rich and the people working for them, but a bunch of people also jumped the train in the last minute, and today they live in the tail, impoverished in squalor. So the further ahead you get in the train, the better life gets. From the tail all the way to first class. And the movie is both a fascinating study of class gaps and divides that feel entirely synthetic and arbitrary, and it's also just a good movie and visually a beautiful one. The show imagines a much larger version of the train, and somewhere on the train there's been a murder. And one of the people living in the tail, Leighton, is the last homicide detective on Earth. So they ask him to solve the murder, and from there it's just your generic detective goes around asking questions kind of story, and not a particularly good one. I'm sure that in the end there's some big reveal that ties the investigation back with the people of the tale rising up like they do in the movie. But, I'm sure they're not going to wrap that up in season 1. They're going to draw this out until this show inevitably gets canceled halfway because it's not good. I think the best example of how this show takes something that the movie did very well and just does a worse version of it, not a new interpretation, just the same thing but worse, is how they even set up the whole premise at the beginning of the show. In the movie, it's just done in text. You just have some text on the screen that explains what happened. They give the chemical that was released into the atmosphere a name. They explain why we launched it into the atmosphere and what happened. It's very effective and it sets up the whole thing. In the show, they do this animation that makes it seem silly. They just show rockets exploding in the sky and that's pretty much it. And it just doesn't have the same weight. And then the rest of the show is the same way. It doesn't look as good most of the time. It doesn't really feel like they're on a train. And in the 4 episodes I watched, they never take their interpretation of Snowpiercer in some unique direction. It just feels like they used it as a backdrop because it was a popular movie, and it just feels cynical. For now, I'm not going to keep watching this show. I simply do not have the time to watch shows I don't like, especially when it feels like they're kind of taking cynical advantage of another better piece of storytelling. I would love to see a version of Snowpiercer that's done in the style that they did with Hannah. That show was awesome. I can't wait for season 2. Or season 2 is out. I need to watch it. But this version of Snowpiercer just feels uninspired, ugly, and completely mishandles an amazing premise. So compared to the source material, I think it's bad. Bad show. Bad Snowpiercer. What about you? Have you watched the Snowpiercer TV show? Did you have any different thoughts about it, or do you agree with me about it being bad? Like, I feel bad calling a show bad, especially because it does have a lot of great talent in it, but I cannot watch another episode of it. But I do want to know what you thought, and how do you think it compares to the original movie, and what do you think they should have done differently? If you're going to be talking about spoilers for either the show or the movie, please use spoiler tags in your comments. And if you're finding Binge Watchers for the first time, welcome. I'd like to invite you to join the Binge Watchers community. Come talk about TV with us. It's a lot of fun. But in any case, keep binging. Oh, I forgot. Blip. Never mind. See ya.